If you wanted to buy a Sam Cooke Abbott, where would you go?
The record store.
Hello and welcome to the Loose Boho Reviews. I am your host Smokey, and joining with me as always is my co-host Spooge.
Hello.
Oh, and we have two special guests with us this review, Starfish and Murda.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
the starfish.
I'm the murder.
Oh, and before we get into the review, I have to give the 3 rules of our rating system. First rule is got to be a 5 out of 5. 1 being we hate it, 5 being we love it. Rule number 2 is if we want our money back, we give it a good old Jeff Goldblum. And rule number 3 is if we all will agree, who's doing the review, that it deserves a 6 out of 5 at God tier, then it'll get a God tier. And today we are reviewing Prince's movie, Under the Cherry Moon.
Straight up, not a god.
It's not. It's not God tier.
No.
Yeah, for sure. We can, of course, we all have our ratings. I'm a 4.5 out of 5.
I'm a 3.5 out of 5.
I am also a 3.5.
And I gave the lowest review. I gave it a 2.5.
Oh.
Oh.
50%. That's right.
I will say I was a little horn dog watching this, so
That's to be expected. It's to be expected. I mean, this is not like a good movie, but it's also a good movie. It was very fun, but it's a hot mess.
Oh, it
I think it was meant to be.
I don't think it was meant. I think they were trying to do something, but at least in the editing process, they knew what they had.
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to do something, and they were trying to do a million somethings at once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a cocaine-addled thought train the entire way through. Like,
Oh yeah.
here's a good question for this film. Are you in France or are you in Miami? Which one? Pick one, and then explain to me when you go to France or when you go to Miami. Because, everyone was speaking French at first, but then, no, it's actually in Miami. There's just French people in Miami. But then we actually did go to France because this is wealthy French noble lady. And then, nope, we're actually in Miami the whole time. Also, what I noticed on the cars, there were some cars that had French license plates and some cars that had Florida license plates. So, that's just another layer of confusion. The setting of the film itself was, not really chosen. I think, I think people were, I don't know. I'm sure most people are probably just enamored with Prince,
yeah,
to
for
really
sure.
care about that kind of stuff. But, I wanted to know, where these events are taking place.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't help that the mother character, she legit was teleporting. She was at the house going, oh, she's ran off with her family, and then she got off the plane. So
I couldn't tell because they were not transition scenes. I didn't know where.
No.
I think sometimes, Smokey, that you thought that the mom character was the other
the other
cougar,
older lady,
rich cougar lady, yeah.
they
No,
looked
it's
very
not.
similar. Mrs. Wellington.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's hard because it's all black and white, and I'm pretty sure they're all brunettes.
They were very similar looking, and it's hard in black and white to determine who.
And it's
is
okay. You didn't commit a racist because it was it was white.
They were both white. Yes.
I thought the bitch was
They were both
white.
white.
You're allowed to not be able to recognize your own.
I mean, they were similar looking, pretty older ladies in black and white. It was hard to know.
Yeah, I couldn't deter. I could have sworn
And they were
that
both
was
banging
the
the
mom.
dad. So. They were both banging the same dude, so that just adds another layer of who the fuck is who.
doesn't help that I also mistaked Mary for the mother as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do that, but
Oh.
Yeah, I did do that. I completely missed. I was like, oh, but I was high while we were watching this.
Yeah. As far as like good things, the camp factor was nice. Like I felt like it was in the parts that they were intentionally trying to be campy about. I thought they pulled it off really well. That's
Yes.
where this 50% is coming from. Like
yeah, I mean,
primarily
it was
that.
definitely deliberately campy. I feel like Prince was just like unhinged and like going wild because he was the director, so he can do whatever he wanted. And he
Right.
was
Oh,
just
that
he
was
was just
very,
going. He was
it
full Prince.
It was very obvious
taking,
though that he
taking,
was
yeah,
the
taking
director.
taking away all like the art stuff and the fact that it's like black and white, like in like like some of the more like strange decisions. It kind of plays as almost like a like Ben Stiller fucking film or like a
Yeah,
I don't know, like
and
in the
I said that I was having I was like, I don't really know what the tone of this movie is. I mean, there's a lot of comedy. There's a lot of deliberate comedy, but also, I mean, somebody gets shot and dies.
Yeah, Prince gets shot.
Yeah, the main character gets shot. So
Yeah,
but
it
like
dies.
you don't know Prince's humor. That might be like the funniest thing ever to him.
it might be. It might be. But like nobody told Prince no on this movie, and I like it. I like that nobody
Yeah.
told him no.
Well, I think
I feel some
um,
scenes he should have been told no though, because some scenes did drag on. There were some dialogue heavy scenes that were very unnecessary. That I was like, oh,
Yes.
it's,
Well, I actually
it's-
read today. I read that there was another director who started on this film, and he fired her. I don't know why he fired her, but I'm guessing because she said no too much.
oh,
Probably.
It's just
So he just took over directing.
the one that stuck out to me the most, the one example was the one when they're on the boat. They just randomly go off onto the deck. That whole scenario just was completely unnecessary to me.
yeah,
Which one?
It was.
That was before he got shot,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Right
it was
before
he
before
got shot?
No, it's not right before he got shot. This was like mid into the film. That it proves my point. Like it's a completely forgettable moment. They're just like at a party on some like party cruise, and him and Mary go
yeah.
off and have a conversation off on the deck, and it's a nothing
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, it's ringing a very faint bell.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
the
what
love
are
story
we
wasn't
doing
really
here?
the.
well,
I mean,
well,
you're-
let's define that for a second, Spooge. Is this a love story? No, it's not. This is not a love story.
I'd
This
say
is
it is.
This is a crazed cat man doing everything he can to steal away the heart of this lady. And I don't know. I can't tell if like this was part of the deliberate campiness or not. But like the air quotes here chemistry between them two on film was I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of hard to watch. This just felt very forced. Like,
Mhm.
you know,
I
it's supposed to be rooting for these two to like, oh, buck the system and beat up, like, you know, screw your dad and like, you know,
I
go
would
and do your own
agree.
life. But like, it just felt weird, like 20 out of 10 times.
I would agree that Prince and Mary did not have the most chemistry, but Prince has like just chemistry. Like
Yes,
you just
yes.
want to watch him.
Yeah, because he's a
Prince
he's a
and
cat
and
man.
Tricky honestly had the best chemistry. out
Oh,
of
that's
all
what
of
I was about
Oh
to say.
Yeah,
Prince.
Prince and Tricky were
we gotta
great.
talk about
Tricky and
Oh,
Prince
yeah.
were- they
Tricky.
were gay.
There's a couple of
Best
scenes with them.
character.
There's a couple of scenes with them where, you know, I think everyone is familiar with like Prince's history, right? But like they definitely had some little side action going on while this filming was taking place.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. There
Like,
was
there
chemistry
was-
there.
I'm sure there's action just flowing around set.
I
Oh,
know
for
that
sure.
chemistry.
Yeah, you know, it was
Which
It
I
was
was very
apparent.
confused. I was very confused because I thought they were supposed to be related. I didn't know if they were brothers
It's hard to. I don't
or
know if they are.
cousins. I don't know if they are because I've checked. So on IMDb, it says cousins and then it says brothers and then Wikipedia it says friends. So like nobody knows. Nobody
Maybe
knows
they were
what their
supposed to be
relationship
related, but maybe like
Then they
Prince
got
kind of
too
made it more
sexy.
vague.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got too sexy.
Yeah.
They did get way too. If they are related, they're definitely from Kentucky.
Only
like I
only
said.
once once do I ever hear them ever say it, but they like I remember one of them said like cousin like, but it seemed more in a way of like
It
of
was
not
tricky.
literal.
Yeah, it was Tricky
Yeah.
that said it, but like he was using it in like not a derogatory thing, but just like, of course I know you, like I know you, and like I
Mhm.
don't know. That was also a weird thing too. Is like Tricky kept saying like, oh, we're partners, and all this stuff, but then like
Which I mean,
Tricky
they're like
never.
scam partners.
Right. Well, sort of.
Well,
I
let's
guess.
Well, they
explain
were
the
they're
Not denying that there
delivery,
isn't.
though. Let's explain
They are-
Tricky's
they are-
delivery in saying partner is like
Mm.
there's emotion behind that partner. It's not just like,
Yeah.
oh, we're fucking business partners, you're fucking me over. It's, oh, we're supposed to be life partners. Why are you doing this
I
to
think
me?
I think they're both.
Yeah,
because
I think it
they're,
can be
they're-
I mean,
taken
they
either
were
way.
definitely both, but they definitely were partners.
Oh,
because I mean we haven't said, but they are supposed to be gigolos. Like they are
I
pulling
didn't
older
get
women.
that part.
Oh
I
yeah,
really-
they're
Oh, yeah, no,
definitely.
they're
I got
definitely
they were
gigolos.
scammers, but I didn't get the
No,
part
no,
where
they're
they
No,
straight
no,
up
they're
gigolos.
gigolos.
I never saw them take any money after any sexual encounters.
Oh no,
That's why I
Prince.
was like, oh,
Prince got the rent. Prince got the rent money after sleeping or staying the night with Mrs. Wellington in like one of the
Okay.
first scenes. So
yeah, that's why she actually purposely
Okay.
put the money down for him. Yeah, and then
okay. I
Yes,
thought he
yes.
stole that. I thought he.
No. He's getting
No,
paid for
leave
his
money on the
services.
counter. Yeah, and then also
but
too, like
he was also gonna having a gold digging scheme though too. So he's
That-
also a
so
scammer.
that's why I was like, oh,
It-
that's not great.
well,
But-
the goal. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the whole so the premise of this film, the plot line of this film, is two down on their luck gigolos attempt to woo the heart of a wealthy uh daughter to some type of fortune. It's never specified like what her father or their family does. It's still to be determined whether they are an American family or if they're a French family.
Yeah, no clue.
They're also
and
British.
Or
yeah,
British.
they're also British. And then also this plot line comes from a scene where Prince is in the bathtub and stuff with Tricky by his side, and they're talking about like the most recent Janes, I guess, that they've had. And then Tricky reads in the paper that this wealthy lady is just turned 21, I believe.
Yes.
And then
And is
Tricky's
supposed
idea
to be
is
getting her
oh,
fortune.
yeah, it's supposed to be getting her fortune or her trust fund. And Tricky's like, oh, well, if you married her, you'd have $50 million. And Prince goes, oh, well, for $50 million, I just might. And then he like slides down into the tub, and it like focuses on like his hair just like sploshing around on the tub for like
While
3
Tricky
seconds.
is like
While Tricky's
showering him with rose petals. Like,
Tricky's just throwing rose petals on him, on his head.
Just some bro shit.
Yeah, just a couple of bros hanging out doing bro things. But
Taking
I mean,
bro
I don't
baths,
even. Yeah, bro bass. But like, I don't even care about that. It's
you took me
that
up
is
to
the
fantasy.
entire plot line of the film. The plot line of the film gets constructed in this like 5-minute intimate bathroom scene between Prince and Tricky, and it never really develops from there. I also have like a lot of problems too with like the fact that everyone is so two-dimensional, and the only person who becomes three-dimensional, well, the only two people who become three-dimensional is Prince and Mary, and like Mary's interesting because the more that we see interactions with like Prince's weird, like, really forwardness with her consistently. She becomes more three-dimensional, and Prince doesn't become three-dimensional until right before he gets shot.
I kind of agree.
I mean,
Everyone else is static.
I disagree.
Tricky is I would say Tricky is the most complex character, honestly, because
he's not.
How he just falls apart at the end, like he completely just loses his shit because of Prince. Like,
Right,
it's completely out of
as
left
it's already
field.
been no, it's not out of left field. It's completely established that Tricky is completely reliant upon Prince to secure the funds needed. As Prince states, I'll stick to the drawers, you stick to keeping your 30% and setting it up. So, like, Tricky doesn't change. Tricky doesn't grow. He does not grow as a character. No one in this show grows as a character. And I mean, I would even hesitate to say, like, Prince doesn't even grow necessarily.
No, Prince doesn't grow.
No.
But he
So, like,
became a landlord.
That's not growth, though, Doc. Like, that's just the
hoe
natural
became the
course.
Prince didn't need to grow. He was complete.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, he was
That's
just,
why he had to be shot,
he's
because he was
not
too
a- he
powerful.
was just he might have not have changed, but he wasn't a two-dimensional character. He was the most complex character out of everybody.
Okay, why was he the most complex character?
Just how he was supposed to be. You're not supposed to. They don't come off as gay, but they make it very apparent at the end. That's what I'm trying to say. His emotional breakdown is a little more emotional than a standard business partner that's getting, screwed out of a scam. You would think he would just go, man, that fucking sucks, and move on to the next scam. But he takes it.
Yeah,
my God,
I
he's just a baby.
He takes it way more.
Just a baby.
Okay.
No, I mean,
takes
they're
it-
not just business partners for sure. I mean, they love each other. At least Tricky loves Prince. I don't know
Yeah.
that Prince can love anyone.
I don't
think he
think
loves like
Prince's
a
character
cat,
would
though.
ever. I think
He's
Prince
like
loves
a
himself
trickster
too much.
god. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prince is definitely the trickster god, which brings me to a point that I have as well, is like some of the shots in this are like borderline Lynchian at times.
Oh, yes.
Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
like some like weird angles that they're taking and like weird like fading decisions that were made, which like also like contributed into like a positive for me. But I don't know, how'd you guys feel about like some of the weird shots that were in this?
Oh, I
yeah,
loved
they-
him.
I loved him. I
one-
love that.
that
one
one
random
shot,
lady.
yeah.
I loved like I said, I almost loved this. The only reason why I didn't was the plot is just too confusing and just all over the place for me
Oh, yeah.
to,
So
to outright
confusing.
love it. That's the only negative I have. The editing was great for me. I love the art style. I can see where Prince was going. There's a few scenes that I can do away with, but they don't take away from the movie for me to the point where I'm like, oh, this is kind of dragging. I never looked at the time or anything like that. That's a very positive thing.
Well,
if I had to look at the runtime, that would have been
It
something.
makes me wonder if Prince was like a David Lynch fan of just like some
Oh,
of
right.
those
I
Surprised
mean,
at all.
shots.
I wouldn't. He's permeated and fucking corrupted so much. I wouldn't be surprised.
Something that I learned today, also just kind of reading about stuff, is that Prince was a big fan of Pee Wee Herman, of Paul Rubens. So
Oh, that's cool.
rest
Oh,
in
nice.
peace, Paul Rubens. But, like,
yes.
That like
Rest in peace.
weird humor, like I kind of get some of that too. Just like
Mhm.
very
Oh, yeah.
larger than life and like just like a character. I mean, like of like he's like his very like sexual Pee Wee Herman type
Oh
character.
yeah, for sure. that is perfect. That is the perfect way to put it.
And I will say to your I guess to everyone's point other than me, I didn't look at the time. I didn't need to look at the runtime. I wasn't enraptured, but I was enraptured more to see like if anything truly got resolved, because like it does. The first 30 minutes of the film sets you up on this ride, but then as soon as like the Recasto scene starts, it just starts coming off the rails.
Yeah.
Literally every single scene after that is like wilder than the last scene.
I forgot
more
about
intense
that.
than the last scene. There's a couple of there is
that
of
scene.
course the scene where Prince decides to climb a ladder and you know I don't know what all was going on in this dark room with Mary's mother,
Oh, I hated
but
that scene.
definitely something. There's definitely some hand play going on.
Yes.
Um,
So that scene, I did not. That was a very uncomfortable scene. I'm glad they didn't take it further. It was basically he was sneaking in to Mary's house to be with Mary, but he snuck into the wrong room, and it was Mary's mom. But it was very dark, so he didn't know that. So
And she was on
he
Valium.
wasn't, and she was like real like down on Valium, so she didn't
Yep.
know either. But like he wasn't trying to be like a creep, and like she was thinking that it was her husband, and she was like,
Right.
yeah, I want to bang. It's just like I'm glad that scene did not go any further than that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I did not need like a full like weird scene like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. That would have been weird. That would have affected the rating.
Yeah, I'm glad they cut it off where they did with that scene.
Do we? But see, that's also a thing too. Do we need this scene to be in this film to advance
Probably
the
not.
plot?
No.
So like
it's
it
probably
just
one of the
kind of
ones-
is like a and what is the scene like saying towards the plot? Like
I
not,
think it
not
was just
much,
a
right?
comedy bit. It was just like
yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was
it's
supposed
the
to be
'80s.
gag.
I mean,
Yeah,
think
it's
of
the
the time that it was. Like it was actually pretty like it didn't go as far as a lot of
it's pretty
80s
tame,
films.
yeah, pretty tame
Yeah.
for 80s.
Unfortunately, like the panty raid thing, that was like a very popular thing up until like the 90s.
Oh yeah, rapey humor
Mhm.
was a huge thing
that
in the
was-
80s,
the-
70s through like early 90s, I'd
Like,
say.
yeah, the Revenge of the Nerds is the biggest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like
Gross.
the biggest criminal of that.
Yeah.
for sure.
It is.
I mean, even like in the 90s, like we just like I think it was like 2 years ago we rewatched Scary Movie, and I was just like, oh my god, like it was just awful, like disturbingly like rapey, and I was like, I don't remember this, and I'm glad that this is not really our comedy anymore, but that was very prevalent, and I'm glad that it was a little more tame in this movie. But no,
Oh, yeah.
it was not needed. It was just played for comedy.
Yeah, yeah, they
Do
definitely
we
wanted-
think that Prince's eyes are magic? Because
Yes.
I do.
Oh yeah.
After seeing this film, I am convinced of his. I don't think that he has very strong magical powers, and I don't necessarily know what his eyes are doing to people.
That's the thing. I don't think it's not that it's the type of magic is different. It's with Rasputin,
It's subtle.
the magic with Rasputin's eyes. You can look at a picture today, and that the magical power he's using is like super powerful. Like it is very dangerous. You got to be real careful with that. But with Prince, it's more calming. It's a hypnot.
We're just making people
hypnotic
horny.
power.
I have a,
Yeah.
I have a less magical explanation for it. The fact that we're a bunch of apes that respond to eye contact. I mean, that's like a form of like putting that you're to intimidate that you're,
I don't know.
either to
There's
connect with
something about
someone
that
or.
stare.
And the bigger your eyes are, the more you're gonna enforce.
I mean, I
wouldn't be
think
surprised.
Prince just appeals to like a majority of people because he's real small. So like
Mhm.
he's real small
androgynous.
and androgynous, feminine, like all at once. So it's like the dudes can be like, yeah, the ladies be like, yeah, and like everyone is like, I'm down for this, and like his face is very feminine and pretty, but it's still masculine. Like it's a
He still
very
has a square jaw.
yes.
Yeah.
I just want to defend the little magic. David Bowie was into the occult. I wouldn't be surprised if Prince was into the occult. So I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if
Oh,
there
yeah.
was like some
Yeah.
No,
level,
not at all.
like there's got to be some. I
I
wouldn't
can
be
see
surprised.
I can see Prince as a magical being for sure.
Yeah,
Like-
definitely.
Like I said, I mean, he seems like in this movie, I saw him as a trickster god. Like he was just,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
he was definitely manipulating reality for people.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
for
definitely.
sure. And I wasn't even in the movie.
I think the person who was least affected was Mary, at least in the beginning. Like
Mhm.
nobody was calling Prince on his shit except for her.
She
But
was
then I mean,
resistant as much as
she
far as she
ultimately-
could.
she ultimately fell in love. Was
That she
Fell
ends
into
up
it,
giving
but-
a stare. That one stare she ends up giving. It's like she was basically possessed by him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, towards the beginning of the film when they crash the party, right? Where she just walks out and says, "Do you like my birthday suit?" And it just flashes. What ostensibly
which is like the best
we still
entrance.
yeah, definitely best entrance of any character in the film by far. Are these people French or are these people wealthy Miami?
Okay,
London
I think,
Miamians.
I think they're
I think it's in
in
Miami,
France.
Florida.
I think it's in Miami, France.
Okay.
So yeah, that's very unclear.
I think it's in Paris, Texas.
Gross.
Miami.
I think the party. I mean, at least there's like a bunch of French people at the party.
It might be in
Maybe.
between. They
At the
might just be
beginning
going
party,
back
yeah.
and forth. They might
Is there
be
like
going
a little
back and forth
France,
and
like a
not
little
making it
little
clear.
France village in Florida, where a bunch of
They
French
just have
people
a
like
they
fuck
have
around?
like a portal from Miami to France for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
that was
part of-
intentional.
They do.
You're
It's
not
part of
supposed to know.
Prince's trickster god. He just like made a portal.
His two favorite things: France and Miami.
Because when they were getting off the plane, it looked like they were getting off the tarmac. It didn't look like they were getting onto the plane. It looked like the plane just landed, and he was in a car. So I don't know.
At the end of the film?
Yeah, at the end of the film, they
They were getting on the plane to fly to New York.
Yes,
they probably were getting
yes.
on the tarmac, but again, because they were doing that, it to me, I thought they just landed and were getting off on the tarmac.
No, they were going to New York to go see Mary's actual boyfriend, who we never
Fiance.
saw. Or yeah, fiance or boy, whatever he was, who we
We
never
heard him.
saw.
We only heard
We
him sing.
in one scene.
Yeah, he sang on the phone and was a dork.
Yep. So my my most hated scene and my favorite scene. My most hated scene was the car chase at some random horse track. I don't know again if this is in France or Miami. What I do know is that like there is no way that Princess Buick would keep up with Mary's Porsche.
I don't even.
It was
remember
it
this
was
scene.
weird.
I-
It was very odd. The shooting of it was weird. It didn't feel fast. It felt like they were going like 15 miles an hour. It's like a 5-minute scene where like he tells Mary, "Oh, meet me here as the sun goes down," and that's when he blows off Tricky to go to the track to meet Mary.
Aw.
And like they go to the track and stuff, and then she's like, "Oh, do you want to race?" And then he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he goes, "All right, ready?" And then she just guns it, and like it was really slow. It's like really slow, and that's not even the part that like I hate the most about it. What I hate the most about it is like, they canoodle. I don't know like how far they've taken like the physical expression of their relationship at this point. I'm not really sure.
I think they've been
Um,
banging.
Oh yeah,
okay,
they were
well,
Oh
banging
yeah.
at that time.
so they're definitely banging in the Buick because it's got more room. And then after there's this like really, it's just very tense. It's this really tense scene between Mary and Prince, and like it kind of escalates to the point, and Prince is being a snot, she's being a brat, and they're just like clashing really hard. And then he's like, "Oh, I'll just call your dad," and then he calls her dad from a payphone. And the payphone says T apostrophe E L apostrophe E F Phone. So again, is this France or Miami?
Telephone.
We
I think
don't
that I
know.
think we're France. Yeah.
That definitely has to be
Telephone.
France.
Okay, so this is a French telephone, and he calls her dad to basically tell her dad that yeah, me and your daughter, we're banging, you're never gonna have control over her anymore, and I don't care like what the fuck you say, all these things. And then like like after all that, like they just had this like really tense like fight sort of thing where it kind of spiraled out of control, and she comes back into the telephone booth, and then they immediately just like start banging again in the telephone booth. Meanwhile, her dad's two guards that are like supposed to watch wherever Mary is are just like watch the whole thing. So ostensibly they watched this race and then watched them fuck in a Buick and then watched them bang in a telephone booth, and like no, like their whole thing is to like prevent this guy from making her fall in love with him or whatever. Why weren't they doing their job? Like no one's accountable here.
I don't know what their
weird,
job
and
was.
it's
I don't know
tense,
why they were
and
there.
I don't know
They're
what's
just, like-
happening.
They're paid by the hour. They're having a good time.
Hey,
I mean, I guess I guess I don't know. It was just like like the ultimate culmination of like confusion of the film for me is like summed up in that sequence of scenes.
I mean, yeah, because Mary never actually really likes Prince. Like,
No, she
I
doesn't.
mean, she
it's
falls in
definitely
love with him,
Stockholm
but like,
syndrome going on.
he's real toxic.
And he's
So-
very aggressive.
Yeah.
Like he's so aggressive.
I personally, it's sometimes it's alluring,
Yeah,
You gotta
I mean,
watch
have
out
a-
for
something-
people
It's
who
something
have
that
cat-like
she's
features.
never
Like-
she's never experienced before.
it's
Like
the
it's
Well,
bad
yeah.
way
guy.
more passionate than whatever her boring fiance is.
Oh yeah,
That
I'm
she
sure that
doesn't-
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's actually
she was
showing
like already
emotion.
like super like possessive too, and on the phone as well.
Yeah. So this is just Mary like going out and having some crazy times because she's never got to before. That's basically what this movie
Yeah,
is
it's a
on her
21-year-old
part.
like getting like that like
And you get to have the crazy times
that
with
bad
Prince.
high
Who wouldn't
school
want to have
boyfriend or
that?
middle school boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I understand why she would do this with Prince, of course.
It's unfortunate that he just has that power.
All right, that was your least favorite scene. So, what was your favorite scene?
My most favorite scene of the entire film, and again, maybe this is why I'm giving it a 2.5, is the scene directly after Prince gets shot. All right, so let me set this up for you. Okay, so here's what we have. We
The
have
upskirt.
Big
He likes
Daddy.
the upskirt.
Not that scene. We have
the very
the
last
Big
scene.
Daddy. We have the Big Daddy. He's done with Prince's shenanigans, and he is going to stop it no matter what it takes. He calls the entire Coast Guard. We again don't know if this Coast Guard is French or American. She like okay, so he took her away from the tarmac that they were about to fly to New York, and they're not talking. at all. He's like, oh, just for 5 minutes so I could talk to you. And he just drives off super far. They don't talk the entire time until they're almost there. And then until they almost get to the place that they're going. And I guess the place that they're going is called the Grotto.
Yeah.
Which we know is their gigolo bang spot.
Yeah, that's their beach bang den. Yeah.
Yeah, so Prince brings his true love to their beach bang den and leaves her there.
Oh yeah, that's where the candles and like the nets. I don't know what that's fucking
Yeah, that's where a fire hazard is. And so that's going on, and then all of a sudden, the police are after him. He meets back up with Tricky and their landlord for some reason.
Yeah, the landlord's been there a lot. Yeah.
The landlord. I didn't forget about
Tricky.
the landlord.
But the relationship between landlord and Tricky is never defined well. However,
I think I understand it.
They finally get, they're trying to escape. Prince hops on a little motorboat, like a pontoon motorboat, very small craft, and he is outpacing Coast Guard like schooners and what are those other ones called? Like they don't have speedboats, but they have like little battleships and stuff, and like he's somehow outpacing them with his trickster god speed. He eventually gets to the grotto, and then the dad says something. However, the way it was shot, all you could hear is the boat engine noise, and you cannot make out what the dad says. And then it like flashes. Now here's another Lynchian shot for you. It flashes to Prince's face, then it flashes to the dad's face, then it flashes to Mary's face, then it flashes to Tricky's face, then it flashes to this policeman who's picking up a rifle, then it flashes to Prince's face, then it flashes to the policeman holding up the rifle, and then bang, we don't see the rifle go off, we don't see Prince get hit, we don't see any of that stuff. Prince falls over. He's been blasted. He's done. Introduce my favorite scene of the film. Out comes Tricky, and he goes, "Dear God." And it's this weird, like, up panel shot. The music is not right. Like, the music is not sorrowful at this point. The music is somewhat lighthearted. And I'm not sure if this is like an intentional camp, an unintentional camp, or like why they decided to do this. But now Tricky has his monologue, and he just tells God how much he loves Prince and how like they were supposed to go on and live their life together, and how Prince was just the little baby. Yeah, and like all these things, and it's like really intense. We don't care what Mary's doing. We don't care that the landlord is next to Tricky for some reason still. We don't care that the dad is like rolling up, and then Mary's like, oh shit, my love of my life, I guess, just got shot, I guess. So I'm gonna run towards him. Runs to him. Dad's all of a sudden on the scene, and the police are loading up Prince onto a gurney, and Mary's like, "Oh, I have to go with him," and the dad says, "There's nothing else that can be done," and she's like, "I have to go with him."
Yeah, I don't know where she was going with them.
To the morgue, apparently.
He's
but yeah,
dead.
that was my favorite scene, because it was just like a nonstop comedy blast that didn't really like, it just was out of nowhere, like not supposed to be funny scene that was entirely hilarious because of the way it was shot, the music, the decisions in dialogue, the delivery of said dialogue. It just was like off, like, you know, not quite fourth wall breaking, but just like, I don't know, it was just like it was very aware of itself and how weird this scene was.
I think that was one of the few scenes not to. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be funny.
Like, I think that whole scene was intentional. Like the motor being louder than the dad being louder, the boat being louder than the dad. I think we weren't supposed to hear what he said, even though I could have swore it was obvious he was saying shoot. He was just saying shoot, but I guess
you never know when it was like
his lips wrong.
You never know when it could have been like it was supposed to not be funny, but the way it went down, they kind of like made it funny, maybe like in the shooting.
Yeah,
intentionally.
and, like, in
You
the editing
don't
room,
know.
they saw what they had because they kept it in like that.
Yeah.
They had to see it like that.
They were probably just as confused because like a lot of this movie is supposed to be intentionally funny. So I
Mhm.
like they were probably just as confused as we were.
Which,
But yeah, that was my favorite
But let's say
out of the film.
so the very next scene is like the final scene of the movie, and like he gets like a letter from, or Tricky gets like a letter from Mary who's been traveling and stuff, and like it's all heartfelt and stuff. But the very final shot of this movie is an upskirt from the landlord, like just after Prince has been murdered. Like I was just like, oh my god.
I guess
It
I
that
was-
also
it was-
love.
I guess that was their way of trying to like tone down the atmosphere. I guess.
cheer everybody up.
But then we got to see Prince in heaven in the credits. He was in heaven singing a song. So
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
You can't kill a god, man.
yeah.
no, he's not dead. He's
He'll
just
be
not
back.
on this earth.
You just ascended.
Also, Tricky's response to Mary's heartfelt letter, he doesn't like fold it up and cherish it. He doesn't like look down sadly or like anything like that. His response to Mary's like heartfelt letter of like, "Hey, we both had such strong feelings for this guy and now he's dead. I don't know what to do with myself. You probably don't know what to do with yourself. Maybe you do because I gave you like a whole bunch of my money so that you could like be a landlord of an apartment complex." 'Cause
Yeah, that
that's
was never
Tricky's
mentioned before.
final destination. He becomes the landlord of an apartment complex that the landlord
shit.
now rents from. His response to this heartfelt letter is go, "Oh, isn't that nice?" And then he just tosses it aside. And it's like, yes, Tricky, this is how I feel about this film. Like, oh, okay, that was nice. Toss.
I can understand you. I can understand you, but I couldn't do Prince like that. I couldn't do Prince like that. I can tell this was Prince through and through, and everything. Some things might not have been intentional, but I feel while they're in the editing room, they was like, all right, we have something here at least. This will be an entertaining hour and 40 minutes.
I was very entertained. Yes.
I
Like
can
I
watch
said,
this. I can watch this again very drunk and high.
Yeah.
very
I could
easily.
watch this again.
Yeah, for sure. I'd watch this again too.
Oh, I best believe I could watch this again.
Oh,
Mhm.
and I forgot to mention, I did know he was gonna get shot because in the very first scene, Prince says like he and Tricky are talking about being a gigolo, and he's like, "If I ever fall in love, it'll kill me." I don't know if y'all
Oh,
caught that.
foreshadowing.
Oh, man.
Oh, they put like
they-
a little bit of effort into this plot.
like, okay, yeah, I completely remember that now.
I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy campy films. Like I enjoy bad films for the sake of bad films.
Mhm.
You know, and if the people around me wanted to watch this again, I wouldn't like be like, "No, I hate this film" or anything like that. But it's just like of campiness to watch. I feel like there are other options that
I'm
are more alluring.
I'm very into like musicians, like crazy musician movies, like Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and like the Beatles movies and stuff like that. So, I mean, this movie is in my wheelhouse. I think these types of movies are different than just like bad movies. Like
Oh, yeah.
they're always like weird and artistic, and they're everyone's terrible actors, but like it's because they're musicians, they're not actors.
Right.
Though I don't think I would say that Prince was a terrible actor in this. I just think he was
No.
like fully Prince. Like
Oh,
he
no.
was just
He was just a
definitely
wild
wasn't
cat.
playing
yeah, he was just
Christopher.
wild. Yeah,
He was just a half cat, half
I think I
trickster
think
god
Tricky. I think Tricky was a terrible actor. I really enjoed Tricky, but he's not a good actor.
Yeah, no.
Tricky
he
had fun.
definitely-
Tricky had fun. I had fun with Tricky.
he
Yeah.
conveyed his emotion too much. That is for sure. He was over the
Yeah,
top.
for sure. I think
Tricky
Mary
did way
was,
better with like the back and forth than like
yeah,
emotional or like any other type of other scene.
And
Unless
Tricky-
it was just like a back and forth with Prince.
yes, exactly. Tricky always did best when he was with Prince, just their
Yeah.
chemistry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which I mean also makes me think, they only need, one trailer. Like I feel like that's also like why the back and forth with Prince works so well
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Ooh.
because of their, because their off-screen chemistry as well.
Hmm. Definitely.
Okay. All right.
But
so,
yeah, there's only. Oh yeah, go on.
No, you go on. I was. We've been going for 45 minutes, so I figured.
Oh shit.
But keep going.
I was just gonna say my favorite and least favorite scene.
Yes.
Yeah,
do
go
that.
ahead.
Yes, yes. Well,
I have something for this too.
I'd say mainly like there's only like one scene I would say that was like full on kind of cringy in like the way of like I don't know because I feel like although this like I can't even really like call this fully a bad film too because there's like a lot of things I love visually like I feel like it's strong enough of that it doesn't even like go with like the so bad it's good it's definitely it's more of a so weird it's good.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, but it was just like him when he was like doing some like deep thinking in his car, listening to Prince. That cracked me up a lot. I mean, like I expect that it's a film full of Prince songs, and so but I don't know. There's just something goofy about that. That's only like full on like I was just like that's just full on goofy and cringy like that. The closest thing to embarrassing, I think. But honestly, my favorite scene was probably the what I always make fun of as the most impractical place of like the candles with like her like laying
The grotto.
in whatever like the little
grotto?
cave.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
grotto.
So in my favorite
Like that's
scene
one of the best
sequence,
shots like ever.
they just like very slowly and seductively like heavy Vaseline on the lens, just like pan down Mary's body and like all the grotto like background, and it's just
It's just a bunch
nets
of
and like
candles.
bunch of rope and just like huge candles just everywhere. Everything's lit. She's there by herself, but it's she's romantically there by herself.
Mhm. I feel like I could see Prince being like in actually like setting up that scene too, like being part of like putting the candles around here or something to get
Yeah.
everything perfect. I could definitely see that was like I could see that was definitely one point when he was like extra focused, like we're not even gonna explain fully like why this is the way it is. It's just like this is the way it has to be in that David Lynchian way.
Right.
Oh yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that.
My
yes.
least favorite and favorite. My least favorite scene was the almost banging the mom on accident.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah,
I
That
was
was a
like,
close second,
that was
yeah.
a rough watch.
I was like starting to tense up, like how far are we gonna take this? Like, oh no. So that was my least favorite scene. My favorite scene is kind of hard because I have like a lot of favorite scenes of this movie. Like, it's hard to pick one. I did
Oh,
like
yeah.
when right after the Recasto, when they're just like they're at that fancy restaurant and like they clear the tables and bust out the boombox and like all the stuffy rich white people are dancing to Prince and they're like super into it. Like I really liked that scene because like
Bunch of old white people dancing.
everyone was into it except for the garçon.
He was not down.
Garcon was not down, but that's probably
No.
because Prince has been screaming at him. Garcon, like he was just screaming at him. Before.
Yeah, the tenseness of the scene that happened before that cannot be understated. So this is the first time she's going out in public with these two random dudes. Keep in mind, she's an incredibly affluent individual. And so there's paparazzi taking pictures, not of Prince, of her. And they're like, who are these guys? What's going on? And all this stuff. And Tricky pushes one paparazzi over and then another bumps into another one, and then they start fighting, and then the paparazzi for some reason decide that it's more important to take pictures of this paparazzi fight. Then they head in And the entire time that they're in Tricky's all like, "Oh, I'm gonna be so sweet to you, Mary," and like, really laying it on thick. And Prince is just like, "Garcon, this is what I ordered," blah, blah, like being incredibly screamy towards this like poor like old man that's just like, what even is life at this point? And then he's like, "Oh, well, you're just a sheltered little brat. And you don't know anything." And like starts this like conflict with Mary of like, you may be rich and affluent, but you've never like experienced life.
Well,
Like the whole thing.
that's okay because they get over their conflicts very quickly.
Yeah, they
Every
do.
time
When
they
the dance
have
par-
them.
yeah, when the dance party happens,
the
it
conflict
goes
was also
away.
setting
But
up
it was
the
so
record.
tense.
I gotta state, the Wreck-It Stowe is my favorite scene. That's the scene to get me into the movie. I was like, all right, I'm along for the ride now.
It was definitely a close second.
That and a close second for me, a favorite scene was when Prince and Mrs. Wellington go back to her house or apartment or whatever, and they're listening to the voicemail of the Mary's dad, who's
Sleeping with her.
yes, Mrs. Wellington.
She likes to have fun.
She bangs Prince, but she is also Mary's dad's mistress. So,
Which is very
on the-
confusing.
very confusing. But on the phone, like Mary's dad is on the phone, and Prince is just like ripping on him, like in a very vaudeville way, like while he's like playing the piano and like answering him and just like ripping on him. And like I really liked that scene too. It was very funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed that scene as well. That was like a good comedy for comedy's sake. Like, we know what we're doing here. At this point in the film, I was like, oh, this isn't so like wacky or crazy. Like, they have this plot set up. Like, they did the dance party, but like, of course, they're gonna have some dance parties. This is a Prince film after all, right? And so like, I didn't really like that scene. Like, there's like a normalcy, there's like a like structured world, like
there's gonna be
that point,
dance
but like
parties in a Prince movie. Yeah,
right. And like I think that scene like highlights like, oh, we could have like gone an actual like kept with a plot and like a setting with this film, but
I didn't need it. I didn't need a plot.
It started to crumble so quickly after that.
I didn't need a plot, and I really enjoyed seeing Prince's just very comedic side. Was just that scene with the voicemail message, like it was very like Marx Brothers or like kind of Catskills comedy, like just very. I really appreciated that.
I completely agree with Murda. I didn't need a plan. I also have to say the costumes, the set that everybody
the outfits, yes,
on point. Like, I loved all. I
wanted most of the outfits, most of Prince's outfits, especially, and just all of his boots. He had a different pair of high-heeled boots for every outfit, and I was very into that.
Definitely.
I love when we get like full body Prince shots of him dancing with his heels and everything.
Those shots were definitely intentional. They made sure to get those.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I was kind of sad that you couldn't see the colors of like what the outfits were because it was.
They talked about it.
They referenced colors a lot. They were like they kept talking
gold,
about colors,
purple, and
but
blue,
I was like,
and black, and white.
I'm going to assume it was because black and white was the artistic choice for this.
Yes, that was definitely Prince's artistic choice.
So they were going to describe the colors for us.
I think it's an ode to like noir films because it was this was like a comedic noir film.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can see that. For sure. They just didn't have
the intention.
They did the
the intention is there, certainly.
Prince was the femme fatale in this noir.
Absolutely.
So that's all right. Is there anything else? I enjoyed it a lot.
I'd watch it again.
The only thing that I will say in reference is that like I'm fine. It's okay if a film doesn't have like a plot. However, this film insists upon its plot to like move things forward,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
like because of the huge gaping like plot holes, the weird directions that are taken is like one of the reasons why I have like issue with the film itself. Like I'm all for like the Beatles self shot material, things of that doesn't
Magical
really have a
Mystery Tour.
plot, right? Like those films don't really have a plot. It's just kind of like, oh, here's this thing, and then this is the event, and you're watching this for the pure spectacle of this event. However, this film is geared to like the plot is recurring and like consistent on one level, and the fact that it like constantly is happening. However, like I think if it was more of a like shot more of like the adventures of Prince, and we just kind of foregoed this whole plot and just like, here's a scene with Mary, here's a scene with Tricky, here's dance party scene. Like I would have preferred that over the like, we're trying to get like the end goal of this, of the original idea of this, is to like get this lady to fall in love with me so I can have $50 million for Tricky and Prince. Because it's consistent, it then needs to prop itself up with with narrative, and it doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't do that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I can totally understand and see where you're coming from. That is for sure.
But anyways, that's my final thing. I would watch this again if other people around me would want to watch it, but it's not something I would seek out on my own.
I would. I'd seek it out on my own.
Definitely sinking out.
I could see this just being like a movie that you put on for like
Yeah, I probably wouldn't.
background
I probably wouldn't
visuals
watch it by
too.
myself. Like after the,
I could probably
wanna
watch it by
some-
myself, or just put it on for like some cool background visuals.
Oh yeah,
and sounds.
If I need something in the background for sure, yeah. All right, so Spooge, do you have anything to add before I give off before I do the outro?
No, just I think there's more other Prince films, right? I'm
Yes,
kind of looking
there are
forward to
two
those
other-
in
Cool.
the far future.
This was
Yes.
the second Prince film, and
I think
Purple Rain was the first, and it was such a success that they did this movie. This movie was a financial
exciting.
flop.
Oh.
It lost money.
That makes sense, though.
Yes,
Oh.
but this was coming off the success of Purple Rain, which made a ton of money and was a success.
That's interesting.
Yeah, 80s
We'll-
people
we'll
aren't gonna
have
like
to-
this.
that we'll have to review the other two.
Yes.
Okay, so if you've been listening to us rambling this long, thank you so much. Please like, comment, and share the video around. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow the Odyssey channel. Do you have a sign-off, Spooge, Murda, Starfish, anybody?
No, I've not thought this far through.
Hey,
Oh,
if there's any like other movies that involve musical people.
Oh,
Of the
motherfuckers.
arts.
I mean, if y'all want to watch some fucking Beatles movies with me, especially, which is not a Beatles movie, but is a Beatles-based movie, but nothing to do with the actual Beatles. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, best movie. God tier for me, personally. I know it's not going to get a God tier for everyone else, but it's a God tier movie for me. So we should hit that up.
Oh
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
starring
that
starring the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton.
totally can do that.
yeah, we'll have to see what's available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Babes.
But yeah, is that it? I think that's it.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's
All right.
it.
All right, bye-bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I want you to find out who those two bums are and what they're doing with my daughter, compris?
Okay, Mr. Sharon.